Greetings. It is June 4th, 2026. I tried to do something more complicated today where I tried to go live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time, and it didn't work. And so I exited and restarted. And I think that I'm on YouTube now, but not on Facebook. And before, maybe I was on Facebook and not YouTube. So I'm still learning. Apparently with StreamYard, you can stream to multiple platforms. And so that's, I guess, the goal eventually. So I think because of that, people didn't get the notification, even though I created the live this morning. It looks like people, because people aren't here yet, it looks like the notification didn't go out. So hi from South Carolina. So we're just going to get anyone who happens upon us today because I was having technical difficulties. So thanks for being here from South Carolina. And we got 37 people in here, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, Julie, you just got the notification. Yeah, I kind of messed up. I set it up this morning, but I tried to do like Facebook and YouTube at the same time, and it looks like it did not notify YouTube people. Hey, Northwest Illinois. Yeah, so I'm glad if you just happened upon it because the notification probably didn't go out because of that problem. Seneca, we got Seneca territory in the house. North Carolina, Indianapolis. Okay, at WNC, Lake Lure. Oh, what's WNC? I don't know what that is. Is that Western North Carolina or is it some other country? Santa Fe, New Mexico. Welcome, everybody. Sorry if you didn't get the notification. I was trying to do something fancy today. I was trying to live stream on multiple platforms and I didn't know what I was doing. So the notification didn't go out. So I had to stop and restart. New Hampshire, Portland, Oregon, Florida Panhandle. So my ancestors are from the Florida Panhandle. Jacksonville, Florida in the house. Iowa, Nova Scotia, Sister Canada in the house. Barefoot Bay, Florida. A lot of Floridians today. Vermont, South Carolina. Welcome, everybody. Sorry that the notification didn't go out. I was trying to get fancy and do more live streams. So I'm going to figure it out next time. But I discovered, I use this app called StreamYard, and it's where I record the live stream and then it goes to other platforms. And usually I just do it to YouTube. But when I first got it, my intention was to be able to stream on multiple platforms, and I just haven't done it. And so today I was like, oh, I'm going to do it today. I'm going to stream on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. But I didn't do it right, I guess. So, my guides want me to reach as big of an audience as possible. So I'm always trying to think of, what can we do? I got this new sign. I wonder if I can show it to you. I got this new sign, but the problem is I haven't been able to record with it yet because it shows up backwards. But I'm going to try to show you the new sign I got from my birthday because it's so cool. Okay, look at my new sign. Look, welcome to the adventure, Metatron, not the news. See, but it's backwards. So I've been trying to figure that out. It turns out that it's very hard to fix that on TikTok, which is where I tend to record a lot of my videos. I can probably figure it out on this app, how to reverse it, but I haven't been able to figure it out on that app. We got 99. Isn't that awesome, that sign? My friends, Victoria and Alma, sent that for my birthday. My birthday is on June 13th. And so they sent me a birthday present. Oh, it wasn't backwards for you? Oh, someone said it wasn't backwards. Okay. Well, that's good to know because it was backwards just now when I was looking at it on this screen, and it's backwards on TikTok. Oh, okay. So then maybe I'll do a video on this app with my sign for YouTube. Hi from Jamaica. Jamaica. Love Jamaica. I worked there. one summer, and I actually got trained by a bunch of Jamaican mothers, healers, root doctors, revivalists, shepherds, priestesses. Oh, we got another June 13th in the room. Okay, we got our first gift. Thank you, Susie Q. Will you discuss how to get to the 5D on Earth? Hot topic. Oh, is that a hot topic? Did not know. Did not know that was a hot topic. It was normal facing. Okay. Well, I could move my my table over there. But then I had to move my light and everything. So I don't know. Maybe next time. So you know what I usually do is I give you some good news, some Metatron, not the news, and oh, look at this. Someone's reading my book. I was just reading Existential Bread Roll. Love the name. Said they're reading my book, The Ethical Psychic. Thank you for your work. Learning so much. I'm so glad. That's my book, Ethical Psychic. Thank you for reading it. I've been getting a lot of messages from people saying they're reading it, saying they're really enjoying it. And I really appreciate that. And I've been asking people to write reviews on Goodreads. Is it goodreads.org? It's like a book review site where you can go and look up books you're interested in reading and see what other people think of them. And there'll be like hundreds of reviews for some books. My book only has, I don't know, maybe like 50 reviews or something. But the more reviews you get, the more people will hear about the book, and then the more people will read it. So, Susie Q said they agree about the book. They also like the book. Yay. Susie Q, I'm gonna return to your question later. I like to always start the live with giving some good news, and then someone said I love it when the wooden microphone comes out. Got it right here. See, now is this backwards or forwards? Which way? See, I got two options here. I wonder if I could, you know what? I'm going to try to move my setup for the first part of my live so you can look at my sign, because I'm so proud of my sign that I just got gifted. So let me see if I can move everything. You're going to get to see my whole setup. Let's see. Now you can see my sign. Metatron, not the news. Of course, it's too low now, huh? This table's not the right size for my couch, but we'll make it work. Metatron, not the news. Isn't that awesome? And look at the little Sasquatch. See, it says National Park Service, Sasquatch. And I think that looks like Mount Shasta. Welcome to your adventure, Metatron, not the news. Thank you to Victoria and Alma for that lovely gift. Okay, so yeah, you didn't see the Sasquatch, right? Isn't that a lovely sign? Octopus with no friends says, hey, I just found your channel and think we align a whole lot in our beliefs. That's good. I like your name. You know, the octopus and the squids, something that I was told years ago. I actually met these folks who were, you know, technically aliens. I mean, should we call them that? They're not humans. So I know all these beings from different star systems, and there's one group that told me that the squid, I think it's the squid and the octopus or octopi, that they're actually from another planet, and then they came here, and they might have come here before we did. I can't remember now. It was so long ago. But they're really, really advanced beings. They're much more advanced than we are. That's why it bothers me a little when I see people eating squid and octopus. But I do eat other animals, so I can't talk. But yeah, they're very advanced beings, and I think we're going to learn how to communicate with them. I think we're starting to learn, and I think that's something we can look forward to. And in general, one of the things we're going to be able to look forward to is the ability to talk to all the animals. So there are some people now that talk to animals. Like I've had some conversations with animals. There are people who are animal communicators, and that's what they do. They talk to animals like pets. They mostly talk to pets to help people facilitate a conversation with their pets. Like I had a friend in Oakland who was an animal communicator, and she used to sometimes give me messages from my dog. Because my first dog, we used to have a telepathic relationship, but my second dog, I got him as a rescue, and he was quite a bit older, and he'd had a rough life. And he, I wasn't able to communicate with him in that way. And so I would ask my animal communicator friend. But in the future, we're going to be able to communicate more universally with animals. And as a result, we're going to get wiser because we're going to benefit more from the wisdom of the animals. So traditionally, in a lot of indigenous cultures, there have always been communications between humans and animals, and humans have always benefited from that communication. But it's a gift that we have to bring back in larger numbers. Like, even though there are some people who still do it, there aren't enough. It should be like basically all of our kids should learn this in kindergarten or whatever. Like, hey, ABCs, how do I talk to the deer? How do I talk to the owl? How do I talk to my dog? Right? That should just be a part of their basic training. Oh, Okie Land is in the house. One of my mods, thank you, Kat, is encouraging you to buy me a coffee. Okay, so for those who are new to my channel, we have 200 people here. I had a little glitch with the technical, so the notification didn't go out. So we might not have as many people today as we usually have. Someone said there's a movie out, Arrival, where the nations that come from space are giant squids. I got to check that out. We got Georgia in the house. Yeah, Dr. Doolittle. So I'm going to give some Metatron, not the news first, and then I'm going to answer questions, political questions, not personal questions. So I've been following, I like to follow a lot of health news because, I'm a medical intuitive, and that's something I'm really interested in, is the future of medicine. And I'm working on a book right now called Medical Mystic, which is about what's wrong with healthcare and how medical intuition can fix it. I'm currently trying to find an agent for my newest book. And at the same time, I'm trying to promote my other books because I was talking to an agent who really, really liked my proposal and my writing and my idea. But she said, this book didn't sell enough for the big publishers to take you on because the economy's bad or something. And I thought it was selling pretty well, but what do I know? So that's why if you see me promoting my book more than I ever did before, that's why, because I really want to get this new book out there. Now, I have gotten lots of good reviews. People really like this book. So I've gotten a couple bad reviews, but just really only a couple. And there were people who were like, I don't know. I thought they were silly reviews. They weren't really content reviews. They were like, I don't like psychic stuff or something. It's like, okay, well, can't help you there. Look at this. I did see this, that they just discovered a tiny blue octopus down really deep in the ocean. I just see that picture. It was really cute. Okay, so back to the good news. I want to start with some of the good news. Metatron, not the news. This is for entertainment purposes only, this entire live. YouTube, talking to you. So, Japan has apparently come up with a cure for Down syndrome. And I know that's a little controversial, because if you've ever been around somebody with Down syndrome, you might be like, why do we need a cure for this? Because they're really special people. And I'm going to tell you what my guide said about Down syndrome. Well, they didn't say specifically about Down syndrome, but they said it about a lot of different disabilities that involve a really high level of care. Like they talked about quadriplegics and people with like nonverbal people and people with Down syndrome who just need kind of constant care like their whole life. What my guide said was that these are teacher souls that come in these bodies, because if you have a body like this, it requires the care of other people. And so if you're born into a body, a certain type of body, that's just part of the operating manual, is you have to have caretakers. And they said that there are certain teachers that incarnate into these bodies so that they can have a captive audience of students. And if you ever talk to people who are caring for a loved one who is like completely immobile or nonverbal or requires, care because of cognitive issues, what you'll find a lot of them say, and especially people who have relatives with Down syndrome, is they'll say is that they learn so much, right, from the people they're taking care of, and what a bright light these people are. Like, just they really shine. So Japan's saying they have a cure. I know it's a little controversial, but let's go on to some less controversial health news. Eye drops. They've just created eye drop, and I don't know which country this is from, that will replace glasses. So they have some eye drops that can fix your vision. And what they're saying is that there will no longer be a need for people to wear glasses, because they'll just be able to use these eye drops. And that's happening this year. Like, it's happening right now, not in the distant future. It's happening right now. I think they were saying like this by the end of this year. Already they have figured out, I think this is South Korea. Again, I can't remember because I've been hearing about it for a while. They have figured out a way to regrow teeth. And the thing that they use, not only does it regrow teeth, but it like removes cavities. And once this becomes widely distributed, we will no longer need dentists. Now, I'm not a licensed medical person, so I'm not giving any medical information. This is just Metatron, not the news. But it's very exciting, this idea that we might be able to get rid of glasses, get rid of drilling cavities and removing teeth and root canals, right? In France, they've developed an artificial heart that beats forever. And that was kind of interesting, because it's like, if it beats forever, does that mean that you never die? Like, someone will die, but their heart will still be beating because it's one of these artificial hearts? That's going to bring up some interesting philosophical questions about the end of life, right? And then along the same lines, there has been a mini pancreas developed. It's biological, but it's like biologically engineered, and it's like this big, and they can use it to replace people's pancreas if they have diabetes. And I think also if they have pancreatic cancer, I think it's going to eliminate pancreatic cancer as a something that kills people. In more health news, they have invented a 3D printed cornea to restore vision to the blind. So they're able to implant these corneas into people's eyes for people who can't see because they have a defective cornea. Anyway, that's some of the good news, not the news, about health. I like to follow that kind of thing. what we're seeing is, I can just tell you overall, we're seeing huge kind of quantum jumps in health inventions that are happening this year. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it's happening this year, right when the United States is pulling away from international health organizations like the WHO, because I think that historically, this is just a hypothesis. I don't know if it's true, but I think that, we may have been suppressing advances in health because our health system is a for-profit corporate health system where, like the American Cancer Society is a, I don't know, billion-dollar organization that makes money. And we have diabetes, and we have like disease is business here. And so we have a lot of lobbies. Like that's why here the FDA will, fight against supplements and anything that challenges existing, chemical treatments and surgery. And so we have this kind of situation that I think is going to be radically altered once all of these new inventions are out. And you'll see that these inventions are happening everywhere but here, which kind of supports my theory. We have all this money. Why aren't we inventing things? I'm not saying we're not inventing things. Yeah, that's a little hyperbolic, but you know what I mean. Why aren't we? Look at all these things that I just read off. They're all in other countries. Where's our equivalent invention? Now, maybe I just don't know about it. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, I think it's a good thing. So I'm not saying all this to be like, oh, there's some big conspiracy. I'm just saying that I think we have to pay attention to these positive shifts, because right now a lot of bad stuff is happening, and it's really easy to be just hyper focused on the bad stuff. And if you don't pay attention, you'll miss out on all of this amazing news, all of these advances. I mean, I don't remember a year in the past where there were this many advances in health in 1 year. It's truly amazing. And I'm seeing that in a lot of areas. And so I also have a list here of like environmental news. And we're seeing a lot of movement in terms of environmental, eco-friendly energy. So right now we're dealing with the whole Bermuda Strait of H, as I like to call it. And what I predicted like a month ago when it started was that it was going to result in an acceleration of the use of green technologies worldwide. And we're already seeing that. So I've reported some of that already, but we've already seen just in the last couple of weeks, these major advances in Europe, parts of Africa and Asia. China is one of the places where there's been this kind of leap forward in terms of replacing fossil fuels with solar and wind. And so while a lot of us tend to focus on the bad news, which is we have this terrible conflict happening over there, right, in the Strait, and it's affecting our energy, and it's going to affect our groceries, it's going to affect a lot of things, right? That's the bad news. But then we have to also pay attention to the good news. We have to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that sometimes something bad has to happen for something much bigger and better to happen. And that's what's happening globally, is that there's a shift happening away from the US, away from these corporations that have been controlling energy, away from the Gulf, away from allowing a set number of countries to control shipping in the world, right? The whole world depends on energy sources to survive. And that's shifting. And that's a really good thing. So, oh yeah. So I got to acknowledge this, the cherry blossoms, and I said apple blossoms, but it's around the same time. Cherry blossoms came first, then apple blossoms. And what my guide said was something big was going to happen at the House of White that was going to have a big impact on the country. And I think we were hoping it was the big, beautiful obituary. But I was just hoping something. And I haven't seen anything. So I don't know. So I don't know if I just got that wrong or if something happened and we're just not aware of it yet, if the impact is going to come later. But yeah, what's taken so long, right? Yeah, so Brazil using solar now. There's a lot of changes happening. So I'm just looking at your comments. Yeah, here's another example by Kendra. The bullet train. They have it in Europe. We don't have it here. I've also lived in places where they've suppressed the light rail. Like we were supposed to have a light rail here in LA, and there's just been all these efforts for years to stop it. And we have serious, traffic issues here and smog issues here. And it would be so nice to create some alternatives that were more eco-friendly. Love light Livy. So she or he is referencing the artificial heart that beats forever. Yeah, speaking of which, I was today I saw one of my mutuals, Gia Prism. She did a post and she talked about how, I guess, Head Clown had made a post about how they can bring dead bodies back to life. And Gia was like, is that what's going on here? Because why did so many people think, it was going to be over and someone's still walking around? And so she was kind of hinting at that as an explanation, which I thought was kind of funny. Oh yeah, isn't my sign great? That was a gift. You saw Gia's post. It was funny, wasn't it? Oh, do I have an Amazon wish list? I don't. You know what I do have? Because, I have a mean to get a post office box because people keep saying they want to send me gifts. And you know what I do have on Amazon? And I know we're not supposed to use Amazon. I stopped using Amazon for quite a while. And, but now I have it again. I don't use it often. I just use it for things I can't get anywhere else. And that's because I don't drive. So I can't go to stores. And so when you don't have a car and you can't drive, it just changes the game, right? And before I stopped driving, I didn't use Amazon. I drove everywhere and got my things. And so now I do occasionally use it, not often. But you know what I do have on Amazon that I've had up there for years is I have a Camino wish list because I want to walk the Camino in Portugal or Spain. And so I created a wish list on Amazon. I wonder if it's public. Yeah, how would I even share that? I have to look into that because I do love getting gifts on my birthday. And yeah, maybe that would encourage me to actually go walk the Camino. So I had been training to walk the Camino in 2020. And I had been training for quite a while, doing hikes and hiking with a backpack. And I had already gotten some of my, couple of my supplies. Like I'd gone through 3 pair of hiking boots and I was all set to go. And then the lockdown happened in 2020 and I had to cancel my trip. And then I was going to go in 2024. I'm not remembering the dates anymore. So I just had the 2nd anniversary. So yes, 2024. And then my mother died and then my dog died too. And then I decided I didn't want to go. And now I want to go again. So I do have, I think I do have a Camino, Camino wish list. I don't know if it's public, but Oh, okay, yeah. So where is my, um, yeah, I agree with you. I prefer not to use Amazon, and I buy from a lot of other stores. Like I get stuff on just different places. Etsy, Bed Bath and Beyond has good politics. I go to Costco. I don't shop at Target. Um, and there's a lot of different, and then there's certain stores that like are near me that I go to, like Grocery Outlet, or there's like a little herbal store that I can go to that's like a mile away. Um, and so, yeah, I don't really want to encourage people to use Amazon, but someone did ask if I had a wish list. So I do have a wish list apparently on my Amazon from years ago, that I did update this year. Because one thing that Amazon is good for, you don't have to buy from Amazon, but you can use it as a search engine. And that's what a lot of people have been talking about. And I like that. Like you can go on Amazon, you can look for something and then find out who makes the thing you're looking for. And then you go buy it somewhere else. And so that's what I was using Amazon for my Camino. I was using it just to make a list of all of my gear that I need for the Camino. Um, so yeah, I have that wish list on, and I think it's public, but I'll double check after the live. Yeah, I only use it for necessities, like when I can't get something somewhere else, and that's only because I don't have a car, only because I'm not driving. Once I'm driving again, I won't use it at all. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. You look it up on Amazon, and then you can go to a small business and buy the item that you found there. Like you just use it like a search engine. Okay, so I'm going to start. Did I do enough news? I'm going to start answering questions soon. Let me see if there's more. There was more news I wanted to share. Some more Metatron, not the news. See my new sign. So let me share a little bit more, not the news, and then I'm going to take some questions. We got 343 in here, even without a notification, so that's pretty good. So we've got some good head clown news. I was going to post today and I didn't, so I was like, well, I'll just share it all in my live. So, as many of you already know, his name is going to be removed from the center of Kennedy. It was never the center of Clown. It was always the center of Kennedy. So I don't know what they were thinking. Also, he was trying to shut the whole place down for renovations. And the real reason he was trying to shut it down is because artists won't perform there with his name on it. And so it was embarrassing because all these artists kept canceling and people wouldn't even go to the shows, you know. So he was like, oh, we'll just shut it down. Well, that effort was shut down. So there was some type of a judge or court case or something that said, no, you cannot shut down the center of Kennedy. And as many of you may already know, his effort to create a $1.8 billion slush fund for his friends was blocked. There was actually a bipartisan bill. Red hats and blue hats came together to block it. And then because of that, or related to that, his bill for the frozen water has also been paused, and it's been paused by the Red Hats, and in reaction to, and partially in reaction to this corrupt slush fund. Like they're just like squashing all of his bills. So the War Resolutions Act was also squashed for the conflict in the Bermuda Strait of H. Funding for his ballroom was also squashed. So like, just pay attention to all the losses. Pay attention to the pattern here, right? We tend to focus on all the illegal stuff he's getting away with, but let's focus on all the illegal stuff he's not getting away with that is being stopped, even by his own people, right? And what's one person today said, I think I saw someone today say this was sign of a lame duck administration. And lame duck usually doesn't happen until like that last year when you're about to leave office and you're believed to be not that powerful. But his lame duck era has already begun, some people are saying. And I think that might be true because people know he's on his way out because of the terms of mid. Oh, is that true? So they're also burning the hats? That's good to know. Yeah, I agree with I Love Henry. This is one of the things that my guide said way back in 2016, that he has a particular role to play in terms of um, revealing things. Not that that's what he's trying to do, but that's how villains are, right? Supervillains are often playing a role that they're not aware of, right? Their motivation for what they do is, villainy, right? They're just up to no good. But sometimes what they're up to plays a role in some greater good. And and so I do think that we are learning a lot, right? A lot of things are being exposed. This is the age of revelation. We're learning about the global, we learned about the global network of bad traffic. We're learning about the role of, corporations, and we're learning about the finagling of governments. We're learning about a lot of things, right? We're learning about, It's Not Real and Land of Vodka, and how they have control over other leaders, right? We're learning a lot of things. Okay, so I think I've given enough Metatron news, and I'm gonna start answering questions now. So, oh yeah, wait, there was one more thing. A federal judge also blocked the head clown's efforts to stop wind and solar energy development. And I don't have the details for this, and I got this from something that was a couple weeks old, so I don't know if this is, hopefully this is still accurate, like it hasn't been reversed. Because that's the thing about these court cases, right? Things are always getting appealed and reversed, and we have to, pay attention. I have a little bit more, not the news I'll share later, but let's take a couple questions. So Wolfpack is telling us that there are no more flags or bumper stickers in their neighborhood, and no more red hats in the grocery store. Our neighbors are stopping by talking about how crazy he is. Love that. Love that. We need more reports like that. So if you have reports, let me know. Someone offered me a car. What? That's amazing. People are so generous. So here's my story with the car. I was in a really bad accident 5 years ago, where some very irresponsible person in a truck, I think they were texting, crashed into me from the rear in my little tiny Prius, totaled my car, and messed me up in a number of ways. And I had a brain injury, and I had some other injuries, and so I couldn't drive. And so for years I didn't drive. And then I had PTSD, from the trauma. So I had to get like PTSD therapy and all that. And so that's why I haven't been driving, but I'm in the process now of relearning how to drive. And I'm looking for a car, and I already have my sights set on a Subaru Crosstrek hybrid. And I picked that car because it's got really great safety ratings, and I just want to be in a really safe car. Because I got rear-ended twice in that Prius, and the Prius is so little that there's just so many bad drivers in big cars on the road. I don't know what that's about, but it's like, I saw a study that confirmed what I had been saying for years, that I think people who are bad drivers purposely get big cars so that they'll be safer when they hit someone, which is so selfish. And then I saw a report that it's really true, that there's a correlation between bad driving and larger cars. Interesting. So that's why I don't have a car, but I am planning to have a car soon. Okay, so back to the questions. But thank you for the offer of the car. If you want to send me a Subaru Crosstrek hybrid, I would like it in light blue. We just got to say out to the universe what we want, right? That's how we manifest. There's this really pretty, like light blue gray color that I like. I haven't really found it in the hybrid. I'm looking at 2020s. 2020, 2021s, because I don't feel the need. I've never bought a new car. I've never felt the need for a new car, but I usually get used car. But that's what I'm looking for, is the hybrid in the blue. Oh, look, here's another report. My neighbors took down their flag 2 months ago. Yeah, let's bring on those reports in the chat. Let us know, people. Let us know in the chat if you've seen this in your neighborhood. We need to, we need to be reminded. We need to encourage and inspire each other with good news. Here's a Subaru girly. I will only drive Subaru for safety. Yeah. Plus, it's a big old gay car, so that's a plus. All right. Yeah, it's supposed to be a really safe car. So I'm looking through the comments to share good news like this. Around the corner, 2 flags down. So, oh yeah, they're talking about that island. Can you believe people are still Columbusing in this day and age? Oh, I discovered an island. You didn't discover anything. You didn't discover America. You didn't discover Africa. You didn't discover anything. But people there for thousands of years, and now they're finding all this archaeological evidence that what the indigenous people have been saying forever is true. And it's just hilarious, right? Like, there was just recently a report about they found some more artifacts in North America that date back like whatever 15,000 years, and they're like, oh, and it turns out we genetic tested them, and they're all related to the indigenous people that live here today, who've been saying this for years. Hey, our people have been here since time immemorial. We didn't migrate on any bridge. That whole bridge story, they made that up because they wanted to justify colonization. Native Americans did not walk across any bridge to come here. We were here already. Okay. Don't let me get started on that rant. Dr. Domenico, thank you for the gift. Happy Pride Month, Dr. Vess. Woohoo! Where's my flag? Oh, see, I moved over here for my sign, and now my flag's over there. Could your guides provide any info on how Scott Pelley being fired by 60 Minutes, Paramount, CBS may play out and bring forth positive change and, dare I say, healing? Geez, I don't even know who this person is. Doesn't mean I can't tune in, though. But let me just get my pride flag, because every time we mention pride, I'm going to fly the flag. All right. Flying my flag. Okay, so let's see. What's the question is Scott Pelley being fired. Now, I thought someone else was fired. Wasn't someone else fired and then they replaced him with this guy? Because I feel like I'm behind in this story. So I don't know who this guy is. So I don't have an opinion on it. But I see if I can tune into the question, see if anything comes up. Scott Pelley. It's an interesting name. Scott Pelley. So I'm seeing this guy at a desk. When there's an anchor for a news show, I'm seeing a guy like at an anchor desk. And you know how they always have those papers on the desk, but there's usually nothing on them, like they're pretend papers because they have a teleprompter or whatever. And I'm seeing these papers, but instead of it just being blank papers, there's stuff written on there, and it's like they're trying to tell the anchor what to say. And so I guess I would interpret this to be like, censorship, or like, government media, right? Which is what this circus is trying to create. Like, they're trying to create government controlled media, right? That one, and they kind of have that with Fox. But so I'm seeing that image when I tune into Scott Pelley. And so I don't know if Pelley was meant to be a government anchor who they were going to feed lines to. I really don't know who this guy is. So I'm reading this totally blind. So someone tell me in the comments if that's right. And so let me see. So I'm seeing that like there's this desire for this government sponsored media. and they were going to use the anchor, or they want to use the anchor in this way. And like the anchor of 60 Minutes is supposed to be, or was supposed to be, like a government mouthpiece. And yeah, this must be the new guy, because I've never heard this name. And 60 Minutes used to be run by someone else whose name I can't remember either. And so if this Belly guy is the one the government was trying to place in there for that purpose, and he got fired, then yes, that's a very good sign. A lot of ifs there. So you're going to have to correct me in the comments if I have this wrong. So someone's correcting me. He's a journalist who was fired because he wouldn't be a mouthpiece. Okay. So this is the thing about psychic stuff. You know, it's hard to get exactly right what it is. So that's very good news then, because I clearly see that intention of, we're going to feed this guy what we want to say, and he's just got to read it. Like, instead of him being an anchor, he was supposed to just read what was on the paper. And that's the plan. That's the plan. And when I say that's the plan, it's still the plan. So that's why I couldn't get a clear hit on, was he the planned guy or not the planned guy? So I guess he was the planned guy, and he got fired because he wouldn't do it. It is still their plan. But will they be able to do it? And so I think Dr. Domenico's question was whether this was going to shift things for whatever station that is. Is that CBS? So what I'm seeing now, when I try to look into the future and say, okay, what's their plans in the future? I see something that I really don't want to share. But let's just say this is a plan. Let's not say this is going to happen, because what I'm tuning into is what this whole controversy is about. Like, I just tuned into the name because I didn't know anything about it. And when I tune into that name, this is what I'm getting, that they want the state-sponsored media. They want to just feed the lines to the anchor. And when I tuned in with the question, okay, now what? I saw that their next plan is to bring threats with it. Like, oh, we're going to get another anchor in there, but we're going to threaten him. We're going to say, do this or else. And I guess with this guy, the threat was, do this or we fire you. And so they fired him. But I feel like they're going to ramp up the threats. Like, we got to keep in mind that these people, the circus, it's organized crime. These are not like civil servants or even corporate bosses. These are mobsters. And so this is the way Head Clown ran a lot of his businesses. He worked with organized crime. He involved himself in a lot of violence, threats, and unalivings and different things. And so this is always what he's wanted. This is always how he's wanted to run things. And to some extent, they have run things this way. So this isn't really new. What's new about it is that there's a certain level of desperation that I feel when I tune into that, because it's like, oh, we can't do things as easily as we thought we could. And we thought we could just go in there and say, look, your guy has to be our spokesperson. Here's the script, read it. And, you know, they thought it was going to be easier than it was going to be. We're going to make you fire all of your, first they fired all of the black people in media. And then they started firing people who were not going to be their lackeys. And so there's been this progression, right? They had a plan. Oh, we're going to change, we're going to take control of media. So this is definitely a blip in the road, because that's not how they wanted. That's not what they planned. And so when I look into see if I see anything in the future, like, and I'm not even going to share. I got the image I'm getting. I'm not going to share. I'm just interpreting it because it's not a pleasant image of what, like, that mindset, that mob mindset. Do this or else, right? Do this or else. And maybe I've been watching too many British mysteries too on the TV. I've been watching British mysteries so that I can just escape from reality, right? Because there's like nothing familiar in those shows. another country. They speak differently, different culture. Right? Um, so I'm going to stop with that. But I see it as a good thing in that not just that they failed to make him their mouthpiece, but that things are not going as planned in general. They were expecting to get control of the media before now. They were expecting to get control of the military before now. They were expecting to get control of all of us before now. They were expecting to get control of the courts, right? And they haven't. So this is a sign that things just aren't going according to plan. Someone else is saying I was offered a car. Yeah, I didn't see the offer, but I love it. I'll just reach out to me privately and I'll send you my address. You can send the car. Oh. Okay. Okay, so I'm just looking for more questions. And okay, here's a question from Orias. About water. And I'm going to answer this because I wanted to also share some Metatron, not the news, related to water. And that is, where is it? Where did I put that? 40%? Was it 40% or 50%? I had the stats for the data centers. Half of all of the AI data centers that were planned for 2026 have either been delayed or canceled. Half. So again, we got to focus on these bigger patterns. People are very upset about these AI centers and worried that they're going to destroy our environment and take away our access to water. But I want us to pay attention. That is their plan. So you're right to be worried. We do need to be worried, but only if we take that worry and we channel it into action, right? So just sitting around worrying isn't productive. But if you're doing something with that worry, maybe you're a part of the solution, right? Maybe you're living in a town near one of these AI centers and you're one of the people that's writing your legislators, or you're protesting, or you're, finding some copper piping that you suddenly need that you found laying around, or what have you. Like if you're a part of the solution, right? A lot of people are. So that's why half of all of the ones that are planned, they're not going forward as planned. So they do pose a serious threat to our water. So that's a kind of tangential subject that I wanted to bring up related to this question by Orias about what are my guides saying about issues with water, and saying the next wars will be fought over water. Well, so let me just start with some of the context. That is the plan of some of these corporations. So what's his name? Bill somebody. We'll just say Bill. Has been buying up water rights and doing things with water, which suggests that he has plans, right, to get control of water and to make it a commodity instead of a essential element for existence. And so there are some signs like that, right? That's where corporations are trying to head, right? So that's part of why people are concerned. But we need to pay attention to some other trends that I pay attention to. Like I pay attention to environmental trends globally. And Ethiopia just planted, I don't know, 1 billion trees. I don't know how many billions of trees in the last couple of years. And a number of countries in Africa are basically bringing plant life back to the Sahara by planting trees and doing setting up these like irrigation walls. They're doing all of these really interesting green energy environmental projects to eliminate drought in certain areas and to bring water back. And so at the same time that you have these nefarious villains, right, these villains who are trying to corporatize water and, just like they did healthcare and other basic rights, right? At the same time that that's happening, you have all of these movements of environmental activism and environmental policy changes. These are like whole countries, whole governments that are fully invested in making major investments in green tech to change the situation with water. But I'll tune in. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. One thing I want to say in general about the future, sometimes I see people making predictions about the future, and it kind of reminds me of a lot of sci-fi novels where people are really limited in their imagination. And I think part of why they're limited in their imagination is because it's just based on what they've read or what they've experienced. And if you're an intuitive, your imagination is not just based on what you've read or what you've experienced, it's also based on what beings from other dimensions have shared with you. And so I think it makes for a more expansive view of the future. So I don't see us having the same problems today in the future, because just as we're seeing with all of these innovations in healthcare, there are so many things like that that can happen this year, right? So like just this year, if you were here at the beginning of the hour, I was listing all of these major advances in healthcare. And I didn't even read all of the ones, like there are some having to do with just eliminating certain forms of cancer. But there's a lot of diseases and conditions that are being eliminated this year. And so we have to be more expansive when we imagine the future. We can't imagine it in terms of today's issues. And so there's a related issue to water that it's hard for us to imagine the future when we think about like the current water situation. Oh, it's only going to get worse, right? There's a tendency to think, oh, it's going to get worse. It's bad now. It's going to get worse. But whenever I look into the future, I always see progress. And sometimes it takes longer than we want, right? Like right now, we're in this period of revelation, and it's really uncomfortable, and it doesn't look good because we're finding out about all this corruption, and we're finding out about all of this bad traffic, and it doesn't look like progress. But in fact, it is, because the truth is coming out. And when the truth comes out, it becomes a lot harder for people to continue engaging in certain behaviors because they're forced to engage in them publicly and they're not justifiable. And so having the truth come out is always something that predates the elimination of something bad. The truth comes out about it, and then it's eliminated. And so we're seeing something similar with water. And so I'll tell you something that my guides said about water in the past, and then I'm going to tune in again today. They said that they were talking about the oceans. And this was a couple of years ago. They were telling me, they were showing me the oceans. They were saying that the biggest crisis on the planet is the oceans. Because they said that humans are polluting the oceans at such a rate that it's going to become a problem for the beings in the ocean. And I kind of got the impression too that, if it got too bad, the ocean beings were going to take control of the situation, and which wasn't going to be good for us. Because, as landlubbers, we're a minority on this planet. The majority of this planet is water, and the majority of beings who live on this planet live in water. So they're far more numerous than us. They're more advanced than us, and they don't need us. And so if we got out of control, they might decide, they don't need us here anymore. And so like we've heard talk now from the government that, there are, aliens in the ocean, and they call them aliens because they don't know what else to call them, but they're beings that are advanced and have civilizations that live in the oceans. And so those beings, and you'll notice that when we started having all the orbs and whatnot, that there were a lot of orbs and drones going into the ocean and coming out of the ocean. And that's because there was communication between the star beings who were visiting and the beings that live under the ocean. So also 3i Atlas, when I was tuning into 3i Atlas, you may recall that oh, maybe I didn't share that. Oh, I didn't. Can I share it now? Okay, I got the go ahead. They were coming here to visit the beings in the ocean. And at the time, they told me not to share that. And now we've seen evidence of it, because one of the things they said was, oh, there's going to be a lot of meteors, what we think of as meteors, that are actually coming from 3i Atlas. And most of them are going to go into the ocean. And the ones that don't go into the ocean are the ones that we're going to pay attention to and be alarmed by. And that has been the case. But most of them have gone into the ocean. Now, a couple of things have happened recently, because like I said, I follow environmental news, and we have 452 people in here. Welcome, everybody. I'm answering a question right now about water. There have been a lot of innovations that have happened related to ocean cleanup that have happened just in the last year. So there have been a number of inventions created to clean up waste out of the ocean. And so there's been some serious cleanup happening. And then just this year, there's been a couple of different inventions that have come out, some of them just in the last month, related to plastics, removing microplastics from water. And so, there's specifically, let me read this since this relates to this question. Let me see if I can find my notes. I don't know if I wrote them all down, but moringa seeds, which are great for your health. I take moringa every day. Moringa seeds have been found to remove plastic. And so they can put these moringa seeds in drinking water and remove any plastics. And then there was some teenagers who just won an award. I can't remember what country they were from. I think India. There's been so many young people in so many countries who've been doing amazing environmental work right now. But these teenagers, I think they're like 15-year-olds in India, invented something that can be put in plastic water barrels to remove, I don't know if it's plastics or just pollutants, because there are a lot of people in poor countries who store their water in plastic bins, and it's really not good for them. So they've invented something to solve that problem. So there are all of these innovations happening, is my point. And so the crises that we're dealing with today are not going to be the crises of tomorrow, because we have drought being addressed, we have the ocean being cleaned up, and we have inventions being created that eliminate microplastics and other contaminants from drinking water. And so that's fundamentally changing the game when it comes to water. Okay. So you know how I like to work. I am an intuitive, but I'm also a scientist and a philosopher. And so I like to bring together empirical data with intuitive data. So that's the kind of empirical data. So I'm going to tune in now and see what my guides have to say about water. Okay, so I'm being shown the ocean and the wave coming up like on the beach from the ocean. And there's just a lot of beach cleanup that's happening. There's a lot of changes happening with beaches. And it's not just, so what I'm getting is, like, right now, the way humans are is, it's not really humans, it's capitalism, but a lot of really wealthy people have taken over beaches. And a lot of beaches in the world are controlled by a very small number of people. And those people are not good stewards of the beach. So, like, indigenous people throughout history who had beaches took care of the beaches, and they didn't, like, pollute the beaches. there was like respect. And so they're showing me that the beach is a big part of the problem, is that we're like putting a lot of pollutants into the water because of our whole relationship to beaches. And that's going to change in the future, that we have to rethink our whole idea of beaches. Like we have to eliminate the whole idea of private beaches. We can't have private beaches anymore. We can't have, what's that organization, that company called, where people go on vacation and you're in this enclosed area where the company has bought the beach and they've bought all these acres and you just stay in this area. Club Med, is that what it's called? Like that has to be eliminated. This whole idea of privatizing or capitalizing beaches is going to change. And not just that, but also like where I live, because I'm seeing that too, like where I live, there's a port, there's oil rigs in the ocean near where I live. There's a port where there's a lot of shipping, there's a lot of pollution. So the whole relationship we have to beaches, I mean, to the ocean in general, but I'm being shown beaches right now. And that's what I'm going to focus on, is going to have to fundamentally change. And when that does change, then it's going to dramatically improve our water supply. Because part of our issue is we don't know how to effectively use like desalinization technology. Because it's kind of silly to say that there's a water shortage on a planet which is mostly water, right? Water everywhere and not a drop to drink, right? So we have to shift in our understanding of water and of how we work with water. For example, there is a way to drink ocean water, right? You just have to purify it with filters or whatever, with the sun. Like there's ways. And that technology is available, or it's being developed. And that's going to fundamentally change our relationship to water. So the way that we interact with the ocean, the way that we interact with beaches, and then all the stuff that's already happening. But a lot of it has to do with making sure that we understand beaches are the commons, right? That they belong to everybody. They don't belong to certain people. And so, and again, this is an example. They're showing me, like, remember how I was just saying that sometimes it's hard for us to see progress because we're focused on what we have to go through to get there. They're saying the same thing is true about water, that we needed to have droughts and we needed to have like water shortage crises in order for some people, right? Not all of us. I know some people are already awake. Some people to wake up to how we relate to water. So like, that's one of the good things about these centers of data, is that it's raising people's consciousness around water. Because there are a lot of people, like in the United States where I live, who are very comfortable with their water supply, and it's not something that we have to think about, right? From day to day. And I got a faucet, I've got a kitchen faucet, I've got a shower, I've got a bathroom faucet, and every time I turn them on, there's water, and it's clean and it's drinkable. I mean, it's not really good for you to drink, but it's drinkable, right? And it's bathable, and it's not going to make me sick. And that's not true in a lot of places. And so there's a certain level of comfort, right, that can come with having a 24-hour-a-day water supply that you don't have to worry about. And so when you have that level of comfort, it can be hard sometimes to be aware of water as a global issue because it's not directly impacting you. If you don't travel, if you don't live someplace where there's a center of data affecting your water, you might never think about it. And so this is also what I'm hearing, is that the current water issues we have are helping us to wake up, and they're helping to mobilize people. It's helping to get these young people to invent new things. These kids, these teenagers in India, were they in India? I follow so many stories of young people inventing things that I sometimes get them mixed up. Because there's also this group of teenagers in West Africa, and then there's been a lot of groups of teenagers inventing things. But I know that one of the teenagers was being interviewed, and she said, oh, that when she was going back to the village to visit her ancestors, like her family would take her back to some village, and she saw how they were struggling with their water supply, and they were having to get their water out of these big blue plastic bins. She was like, I have to do something about that, right? Where she lived, she wasn't dealing with any kind of water issue. She had a very comfortable life. But when she would go travel, right, and she would see this, it raised her consciousness. Well, that's what's happening to us. Some of us, instead of us traveling, it's, the problem is coming to us. It's coming to certain cities, to a city near you where there's a center of data, and it's raising our consciousness about water. A while ago, maybe like a year ago, I did a post where my guides were specifically saying that everybody needs to be involved in cleaning the water. Like, it was a really big issue that my guides brought up, a few months ago, a year, I can't remember now. And they said that everyone should be doing something in their area. So like, I live near a beach, and so I sometimes help out with beach cleanup. That's just where you walk around and pick up trash, right? But if you live near a river or lake or a pond, there might be something else that you can do in your area. But there's something all of us can do locally to clean up the water. And, all the water is connected. It's a big network. And so if your little river in your little town is polluted, that river is eventually going to join up with a bigger river that's going to join up with a lake or an ocean. It's all going to get polluted because of your little river. So you don't have to travel to some third world country to clean up the water. You have water near you. And so you can just find out what's happening in your area. There's going to be some organizations in your neighborhood who are focused on like cleaning up Lake Michigan, Lake Michigan has great water, by the way. I grew up on Lake Michigan, and it was the best water, and I really miss it. But I don't know if that's changed since I moved away, but Lake Michigan always had really good water. But are there threats to Lake Michigan? Are there some companies dumping in Lake Michigan? Maybe you need to get involved in that. What's going on? Are there wetlands near you that need protecting? Are they trying to bulldoze over the wetlands near you? Are they trying to build a Walmart on top of your wetlands, right? You can get involved in that, right? So we can all play a role in safeguarding our water in the future. But the short answer to that question is, I'm not worried. My guides are not worried about the water. And one of my mods, thank you, Orias, is promoting promoting me. If you want me to get the whole enchilada, do the buy me a coffee or the Venmo rather than the YT. I'm grateful for anything that anyone sends me. I appreciate all of it, and I also appreciate my mods trying to help me out. Okay, so someone said, there are cities on Lake Michigan dumping excess sewage during floods. Oh, I wonder if that's an accident of the flood or if that just happens. Yeah, so if you live on Lake Michigan, then maybe you can get involved. Oh, here's a really heartbreaking question. Did I miss a gift? I like to pay attention to the gifts so I can answer those questions first. No gifts. Okay, buy me a coffee then. I saw a question. Someone said Lake Michigan is still gorgeous. And is it still really delicious? Like, when I've gone back to Chicago for conferences, I go to like restaurants and just order water, and I just drink glasses and glasses of that. I love that water. Okay. So I'm looking for questions. I'm seeing one that I kind of want to answer, but it's really triggering. So I'm trying to decide. I don't like to talk too much about SA and subjects like that, because I know it's very triggering for some of my audience. So I'm trying to decide how I can answer, if I can answer that question. Oh yeah, here's another example of how you can help from Rita Rader, talking about how buildings didn't change their lead pipes until 1968, 69, when they started building homes without lead pipes. So there are some places still, right, in the US that have lead pipes, or that have old pipes, or that have, right, and that's contributing to pollution too. So or plastic pipes. There's so many different things you can get involved in to help the water. Oh, that's just good to know. Oregon has never allowed private ownership of ocean beaches. That needs to be universalized. We can't have any more privatization of water, because we all depend on water. So I'm just answering questions now. We have 480 people in the room. And I'm just looking for more questions to answer. Yeah, so here's an example from Kendra. Most of the beaches in Jamaica are blocked off to the local residents. It's ridiculous, right? I mean, they live there and they can't enjoy their own beaches because they got bought up by corporations. Oh, this person, Marlon, said they had a dream about training in water. Ooh. Yeah, we all have to get involved with cleaning up the water. Yeah, these all-inclusive hotels need to go. Oh, someone just finished my book. Oh, I have to. Thank you. Thank you for reading my book. Thank you for buying my book. I appreciate it. So Marlon Bordon said, I finished your book. I'm definitely inspired and aligned with being an ethical medium light worker. Oh, I'm so glad. That's why I wrote it. It was mostly channeled, like I wrote the first draft of this book in one sitting in a notebook by hand. And I wrote it in not one sitting. Sorry, I'm exaggerating. In 3 weeks. I just would sit down every day and write until I filled up this notebook. And that was the first draft of The Ethical Psychic. And of course, I edited it. And then when I got it to a publisher, they, of course, gave me lots of edits. And I got a developmental edit. I got line by line edits. I went through a proofreader. I went through a lot of edits. Don't believe anyone who says they wrote something and then just published it, because that's not how books are done. Everyone thinks they're a genius. But the reality is it takes many people looking at your manuscript to get it right. Many eyes. It's best to have many eyes on it saying, did you really want to say this? So thank you. Thank you for reading my book. And I'm so glad. Thanks for the feedback. I'm so glad that you found it helpful. Okay. Oh, the car was me, Super Dougie. I wish I could give you a Subaru. Oh, so you had another car for me? And here I am like, I want a Subaru. Looking the gift horse in the mouth. Yeah, I kind of got my heart set on a Subaru because of the safety issue. Just because, after you get into a bad accident, that becomes your whole focus, right? Safety. I don't want that ever happen to me again. Yeah, I couldn't work for years. It completely upended my entire life. But the good news that came out of it was, because the car accident affected my speech, and I couldn't see clients, I couldn't teach classes, I couldn't do public speaking, and I couldn't do any of the things that I did for a living. I had to focus entirely on writing. And so during the time that I was recovering, I got both of these books out. I got both of these books edited and published during the period that I was recovering. Because my guides were like, oh, we're just going to pivot you. We're going to pivot you from speaking to writing. So see, there's always, even something that looks bad, there's always something good, right? And that's what we all have to realize, is that we all go through challenges, and we're going through a big challenge as a country, but there's always something good that comes out of it, or that's on the other end of it, and it's hard to see it in the moment. Like when you're going through the trauma, all you see is the trauma. You're like, this is terrible. But when you can get to that point where you can see the meaning of it, the purpose of it, the bigger picture, and how it actually helped you to grow or to become a better person or to develop new gifts, right? Like I needed to sit down and finish those books. I was running around. I was teaching in like 6 different cities. I was flying every month to go see clients and teach. I was running around like a mad woman. And I didn't have time to sit down and finish my books. And then you know what? The universe provided a way for me to sit down and write my books. So, you know, you got to look at these bigger pictures. Okay, so I'm looking for more questions. A question about Canada. Just Me 14 wants to know, with the renewed threats to us Canadians, what can you tell us? Love my Canadians. I'm going to be up in Canada in August, going up there for a ceremony, and I'm going to be in Winnipeg. So who knows? I don't know if I'll be doing anything in Winnipeg besides the ceremony I'm going to, but if so, I'll let you know. But I love Canada. And I'll before I answer the question, like in the moment, I'll tell you what I've already been told about Canada by my guides. And that is that, so we have 503 people in the room. Thank you all for being here. I was told way back in 2020. So in 2020, my guides had me doing some precognition about the pandemic. And I did that on a podcast called Journal of a Medical Intuitive, which you can still find. But I don't make new episodes now because I got shifted to post-election psychic news, Chronicles of the Persistence podcast now. But what they told me way back then was that Canada was going to become the big sister to the US, that we were going to lose our status, and that we were no longer going to be kind of in a dominating position above Canada and Mexico. Like we were no longer going to be the big kid in the room running things and telling people what to do. And that instead Canada was going to kind of move into that position, but not our position, a better one, a big sister. So big sister is a better position to be in than like big brother with a stick, right? We were big brother with a stick, the US. And that's shifting now. Right? We're losing our stick, which is good. And so they showed me Canada as big sister to the US. And they also showed a lot of people leaving the US and moving to Canada. I don't know how Canada feels about that, but but basically there was just kind of this role, this kind of very positive, more female, maternal, caretaking leadership role that Canada was taking. And you know what I saw related to that more recently? So that was back in 2020. Then more recently, maybe like in 2024, 25, when I first started this series of this podcast about, the circus, I was shown the 3 sisters of the Americas. I was shown that we had Claudia Sheinbaum, I'm forgetting her full name, but the Mexican president was a woman. And then we were supposed to have a female president, right? Lotus Queen. And then we were supposed to have, and then Canada is supposed to have a female, is it prime minister? And that these 3 women leaders were going to lead together. So that was one of the visions I was shown. The 3 sisters of the Americas would be then taking us into a better age. And this is related to the rise of the divine feminine and the rise of the matriarchy and the decline, the destruction of the patriarchy. So those are a couple of things I've already been told about Canada. Let me see if I can get anything new about Canada. I am not worried about Canada. Now, some people might say, oh, well, Dr. Vesh, you're not worried about anything. I am worried about some things. I don't say it a lot on these videos. I always try to present a positive, but it's a lot of bluster, I think, when it comes to our clown trying to threaten Canada. But let me just tune in also and just see if there's anything new I'm getting. Basically, I want to say everything I've seen thus far about the future of Canada does not support the possibility of Canada being oppressed in any way by the United States. So it's not consistent with what I've seen. So that's my first big answer to that is the future of Canada is not one where they are under the thumb of the US. I've never seen that. So I'm not worried about threats. But let's see what I can get right now. So I'm being shown Canada in all its glory, and I'm being shown like all these provinces and how there's like a man standing up at almost every province. Like each province has its own leader, and a lot of them are men. And, you know, there's a problem right now. When the image I'm being shown is kind of like, you know, men like to fight amongst themselves. That's kind of something that we've historically had to deal with, right? Men fighting each other in kind of ego battles. And I'm keep showing them like popping up like, no, I'm the top dog. No, I'm the top dog. No, I'm the top dog. Kind of like those whack-a-mole things, but the one keeps popping up. And each one is like, I'm the top dog. And so that feels like maybe what's happening now. And I'm not up to date on current news, current political news. Someone's banging on my door really loudly. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. That's my groceries. They came early. Boy, he was banging so loud. I thought there was an emergency. I don't have a doorbell, so they have to bang. So I don't know if this is related to what's going on right now politically, but it's like there's some kind of, you know, competition happening right now between the provinces and the leadership of the individual provinces. But that's going to change. And this is kind of a temporary thing. Again, it's like something that has to happen to get to this different leadership structure in the future. Yeah, and I think this is related to our head clown because we were just there in, what was it, Ontario, and then there's like that one guy, I think Carney, and it's kind of working out for Canada, right? Because what Canada is doing, and tell me if I'm wrong, but this is what I'm picking up intuitively, is what Canada is doing is they're kind of saying, look over here. No, look over here. No, no, I'm in charge. Don't talk to me. No, I'm the, you know. And so head clown is trying to figure out who we can manipulate or who we can make a deal with or who we can intimidate. And, but Canada is kind of keeping him on his head on a swivel because there are all these different leaders in Canada, right? Even though there's your prime minister, whatever, but there are all these different regional leaders who are really important. And when you're a con man, when you're a mobster, when you're someone who's thinks like that, the way that you try to operate politically is you try to figure out who you can work with, who you have leverage over, right? Or who will be enticed by your corruption proposal, right? That's how they operate. They look for countries with corrupt leaders that they can make deals with, or they look for someone weak in a country that they can manipulate, right? And so I think that's what, you know, the circus is trying to do. They're trying to figure out who can they deal with, who can they wheel and deal with, or who can they harm. And that's what they're doing in the US, right? So right now the circus is going after particular states because they're going after particular leaders and they're trying to create leverage, right? So that's why they went after Minnesota, to go after Walz, right? They're trying to create a situation there where he'll cave. They tried to go after California by starting all those fires for entertainment purposes only. They went after, now they're in New Jersey, right? So that's kind of their playbook. But it's not going to work in Canada. It's not going to work in Canada. If there's anything else I can get about that. I am seeing some kind of type of accord. So I'm seeing people shaking hands. There's going to be some type of accord that's made. But I'm not worried about it. And I'm trying to see if it's something that what's their intention. So I think that Head Clown thinks he has made or is making an accord with some particular leader in Canada, which he thinks is going to allow him to do something he's planning to do. But it's not. It's not. And it's kind of part of that like Canada nice thing, where people kind of smile in your face and be like, oh yeah. But that doesn't mean that's what's happening. And also, just because he made a deal with one guy doesn't mean the other guys are going to fall in line, right? The other provinces. So, and that's what he's not counting on either. And that's kind of part of a bigger theme that I've seen that my guides have shown me of regionalism. So in the U.S., we're a collection of states which agreed to be governed in part by a federal government and in part by local, state governments. And, this circus is trying to turn our country into an authoritarian state where there are no states' rights. And what I've seen in the future is that, that's not going to work because that's just not who we are. Like, we have really strong state identities, especially like where I live in California. We're like our own country. And a lot of people here will be perfectly okay with leaving the U.S. as long as they get to stay in California. There's that potential for regionalism, right? For the federal government no longer being intact, and there being like a balkanization of like the U.S. turning into 4 countries or something like that. And so there's this general theme, right, with Canada and the U.S. where people aren't necessarily totally invested in a federal government no matter what, right? Because we're entering the no matter what phase, right, of our government, where up until now everyone was like, U.S. do or die, right? Total loyalty to the country and always support it, right? And now we're in the do or die part, right? Where it's like, okay, are you going to keep supporting it if it's kidnapping and unaliving large numbers of people? Are we going to stay loyal to it if it is supporting a global traffic ring that's abusing women and girls, right? Are we going to keep supporting it if it's going around kabooming various countries and removing their leaders and taking over their resources, right? I mean, it's something we've always done, but it's just ramped up to a much higher level now. So we're in that do or die period where there are different possibilities going forward. And it's not a sea war because it's really the people against the circus. It's not the people against the people, right? So in the sea war, it was people against people. It was one group of states against another group of states, right? Fighting over the right to enslave people, right? And that's not what we have now. What we have now is a lot, the majority of the people who are opposed to the circus that has taken over the federal government in a coup-like situation, right? They were not chosen. They were not put into office with tickets by the people. They found another way in, right? Which we generally call a coup. And so we're in a very different situation from, 1860s. So it's not that, unless people are worried about that. It's not that. And also keep in mind that the circus does not control the military. And so it's also not going to be a war of the circus against the people with actual weapons, right? Because they don't have control. And I've seen that. I saw that before it was obvious. And now we have lots of evidence for it, with regard to reports coming out about what's going on over there in the Strait, with regard to what we've heard about generals and about all of the conscientious objectors, and just a lot of things that are going on, polls that have been done of those in uniform. He doesn't have that support. And so, and that's relevant to Canada too, because like, it's not like he has the capacity to send in a military to Canada. He might think he does, but Americans aren't. They're not going to do it. The service people are not going to go along with it. So don't worry about that. All right, got 511 people in the room. I'm answering questions, tuning in intuitively, and telling you what my guides have said. All right. So but I don't think it's the case, because look at all the evidence that it's not the case, that it's his military against us. He does have a very small group of brown shirts, right? The frozen water, but they haven't been that successful, right? When they came to our different cities, like they came here to LA first. And then they try to bring in the National Guard. But the National Guard in all the cities that they've brought them in, they haven't really been willing to fight, right? They're not supposed to. It's not in their job description to fight on U.S. soil. It's illegal. But he thought he could get them to. And so he brought them into these frozen water conflicts, hoping they would back up the frozen water. And they didn't. What they did was they protected federal buildings from protesters. That's what they did in LA, right? They stood in front of federal buildings to protect them, basically to protect property. But they didn't turn into frozen water, what do you call it? Affiliates, right? Or another word for it, accessories. What's that word? They didn't turn into like a separate battalion that was being dictated to by the circus to go and get these people or go and hurt these people, right? That was the plan, but it didn't work. And even when he tried to get, military, he had to go to the South, right? He had to go to the South to find like the racist people that he could get to join to go up north. And he tried to create some type of race war, right? In DC, he tried to bring all these very racist Southern white men from the South up into DC. And it didn't work, right? It didn't work because the palm-colored people of DC were not interested in participating in a race war. They were like, we support our black and brown sisters and brothers, neighbors and friends, and we're fighting with them. We don't believe in a race war. And so the consciousness has shifted enough in this country that that's just not a possibility anymore. So the group of people that he does have fighting for him, it's a very small group, right? The frozen water crew. And even now what we're seeing is that with these trafficking centers that they're building, we're seeing more and more major protests happening. So that's like New Jersey right now. And we now have like government officials in New Jersey writing bills to get that place shut down, right? Delaney. And so that's what we have is we have people organizing and coming together, and we have lawmakers standing up and becoming more conscious. And so he's just not going to be successful in like rounding enough of us up to keep us under control. Right now there are a lot of brown people who are suffering, especially, um, children and teen girls, who are really suffering. I mean, I did say this a long time ago. I did say that frozen water is a trafficking business, and now we're seeing proof of it. Unfortunately, we're seeing proof of it, but it's also a good thing in my mind that the truth is coming out, because now that people know, people are standing up even more against these centers of detention, right? These centers of traffic is what they are. So these teen girls, these pregnant girls that are being impregnated in these facilities, and then we don't know what's happening to the babies, and they're putting them in special camps, right? That's all what we'd expect to see for a trafficking organization, and that's what I was shown, whatever, many months ago, is that frozen water. Because Circus is a trafficking organization, right? Head Clown has been a trafficker his whole life, right? So that's what the Files of Epi are all about. It's about a trafficking ring that he was one of the leaders of. So of course, as president, as Head Clown, he's going to keep doing what he's always done. And so they've just now switched it over to frozen water. Oh, we're going to use these centers of traffic, of detaining, to traffic, right? But there's a major dance party happening there, and there's a lot of people standing up against it. And so there was a question in the comments about that, so I think I'm going to tune into that. Although just me bringing that up, a bunch of people left the room. See what I said about people getting triggered? I have to be careful about talking about that too much. But let me just see if I can tune in and get anything good about that. So I'm focusing in particular on New Jersey. I'm seeing some kind of so I know there's already a really big dance party there, but I'm seeing kind of like someone's throwing a big vat of milk or white paint. I'm not sure what it is. This thing about psychics, sometimes you get these images, you don't know what they mean. But I'm seeing it being thrown at the facility. And one thing that reminds me of is whitewashing, right? Like people trying to whitewash something. But the way that it looks is like, when someone goes into a museum and they throw red paint on some art to bring attention to, like, the mistreatment of animals or the mistreatment of women, or some issue, right? And the way they do it is they get people's attention by throwing a big bucket of paint on something. It's a form of activism, right? But I'm really feeling like milk, not paint, like milk. And so I see all these people like banging drums and just being very strident about, we're not going to let this stand. We're not going to let this stand. So these are the people who are outside of the center, the Delaney Center. They're all like, we're not going to let this stand. We're not going to let this stand. And they're just not backing down. Like they're not going home. They're not backing down. They're not going to be cowed. And it's just going to keep growing until this big vat of milk comes, which I don't know what that is. And I'm almost wondering if there isn't some leak or some revelation that has to do with milk for the babies, to expose what's going on with the teen mothers and the babies. And maybe it's related to that, why I'm like feeling milk. But I don't see it dying down. I don't see the protests dying down at all. but it does kind of feel like Standing Rock and Alligator Alcatraz. So these are, if you look at Standing Rock and Alligator Alcatraz, these are two situations where the people came out in huge numbers, protested, protested, protested. It was a global protest, and things kept dragging out, right? Like it got shut down, then it got back up, then it got shut down, then it got. Same with Alligator Alcatraz, it got shut down, and then it was still there, and then it got shut down, right? And it's been limping along in some sort of pseudo state of I think they got rid of most of the detainees, but it's still not all the way shut down or something in Florida. And so it feels kind of like that it's going to be this kind of endless, really, really strong ongoing protest that's going to make it impossible for them to do what they wanted to do. But it does feel like it takes a while. Like it doesn't get shut down tomorrow. Like it's kind of like stop and go, success, one step forward, two steps back, two steps forward, one step back kind of thing. I just have to share that from Jennifer McAlmy. McAlchemy. When he finally goes, the celebrations around the world. I agree with this statement. Rita Rader, some action should have been taken during the first term with the children in cages and the children disappearing. That was trafficking. Oh, it's a hunger strike. Right. I wonder if the milk is related to the hunger strike. So I'm just looking at the comments. It's almost 2 hours, so I'm going to probably just take one more question. Yeah, this is what I've said for a long time. The head clown and Epi were business partners, and that's going to come out. And now we have had some survivors say that head clown was running things. So it's a little bit of it's coming out, right? But we need more of it to come out. So I'm just looking at your questions and your comments. Oh, did that happen in Canada? Are you talking about Canada? He's definitely got his hand in a lot of tabulation around the world, right? He's trying to control a lot of things around the world. But there are also investigations into Starboy's interference in certain contests in Europe. So people are aware. And that is the plan, right? They're planning that for the terms of mid. It's going to be a lot harder this time, though, because a lot of people are going to do mail-in ballots to avoid that possibility, and that's why Head Clown is trying to outlaw mail-in ballots, because you can't manipulate those with a satellite. So, although you still could, I mean, you can manipulate. I mean, they could just find a way to hack mail-in ballot vote counting machines, and that's a different type of machine. And I think that machine is not connected to the internet, so I don't know how they would do that. But it's not that it's impossible. It's just much harder to manipulate paper ballots, right? You'd have to have a bunch of people in place. You'd have to have a huge conspiracy versus having 400 satellites that were manipulating digital, ones and zeros. So someone's just sharing some interesting resources, worldliteracyproject.org and kindredworld.org. Um, 555. You know what 555 means? It's change, change, change. Change, change, change. Oh. All right. I don't know if I should answer this question, but I will. So first of all, I want to disagree with your first statement. Americans are discrediting Dems right and left. Well, actually, I maybe before I disagree, I should say, what do you mean? I don't know. Maybe I don't know what you mean. But I'll say this: the majority of the country is anti-circus at this point. So, yeah. Now, maybe you're saying, well, even if they're anti-circus, they're not pro-Dem. And that is an issue, right? Because a lot of people are very unhappy with the blue hats. I know I am. But people are also really, really afraid of the red hats. And so people, I think, will vote out of that fear, if nothing else. Now, unfortunately, so I'm not worried about the press. Yeah, we don't have press anymore, right? We have some alternative press, but mainstream press, we don't really have anymore, right? And we just need to accept that. And so I think that a lot of people are still really attached to mainstream media and thinking that it's some kind of legitimate source of knowledge about what's going on in the country. And it just isn't. So like polls that are done, we can't always count on them because of the amount of manipulation that's currently happening and censorship. But, there's not going to be any groundswell of support for the circus. And all the polls and all the media sources, even though many of them are censored, and they still cannot produce polls that show any increased or stable support, right? Polls just keep coming out showing that people are just leaving the circus, leaving that party. So some of those people just aren't going to participate, and some of them are going to participate on the blue side. But what I saw in the past was that there were not going to be any terms of mid, and what I saw was that something big was going to happen before then. So let me see if I tune in now if I get something different. Even though I saw that, I'm still, hoping that we're still going to have them because, of course, we will have a blue wave if we have them. So I just participated in our election here in California, and I did so strategically because these are the times we're living in. So, like, I wanted to vote for Katie Porter for governor, but I did not because she did not have any chance of winning. And there was a red hat running. And so I voted strategically for Becerra, who I've heard most recent reports, did indeed win. And, I think a lot of people are going to be doing that going forward. They're going to be making choices strategically because the alternative is so dangerous, right? Because if we had gotten a red hat in that office, that just basically, if you choose that party, you're choosing unaliving for a lot of people. That's the bottom line. It's really not about ideology at this point. It's about, are you supporting the unaliving of people or not? And this is one of the things I was told in 2016, like when I was, trying to convince people to, you know, when I was, trying to talk to people about possibilities with that contest, I kept saying what I was getting was that if that guy got into office, a lot of people were going to lose their life. And sure enough, that's what happened, right? And in terms of the pandemic, in terms of the children in cages, right, there was a lot of loss of life as a result of that particular person getting into that particular position. And now we're in 2.0 and we're seeing that again, right? A lot of people are losing their lives because of, both here and abroad, because of that particular clown. And so at this point, that's really the only thing, that's the bottom line, right? Either you're for the unaliving of people or you're not. That's the way I see it. And I think a lot of people are going to choose that way in terms of like whether or not they're willing to risk more people suffering by this person getting into office. So that being said, let me tune in once again to the terms of mid and see if there's new information about that. Because, here's the thing. So what a lot of psychics will say is there are different timelines. And because we have free will and we can't predict how every person is going to behave, the future is never set, right? So what we do as psychics is we tune into probabilities. We tune into likely outcomes. Like if we continue in a particular way, this is how things will. I just realized my groceries are outside. Let me at least open the door so keep an eye on. I got some Whole Foods. People. Yeah, I forgot what I was saying. So let me tune in. Oh, right. I was talking about timelines and different possibilities. Because what I saw, so before I tune in, I'm going to again share what I saw before. I saw a couple of things which haven't happened yet. And so now I'm beginning to wonder, has the timeline shifted? Because I was told something big was going to happen when the apple blossoms bloomed, which was last month, related to the House of White. And it was going to be monumental. And as far as I know, nothing has happened. And I also saw lots of people kind of storming the House of White, people from the Red Hat ex-Magatonian crew and also people of the Blue Hat persuasion. And I saw us coming together, unifying against the circus. That hasn't happened yet, at least not physically, right? I think ideologically and consciously it's happening. Like we are seeing a lot of people, burn their red hats or take down their signs and apologize to their relatives and realize that, okay, they shouldn't have chosen that. A lot of remorse, especially big name red hat people are coming out against the circus, right? So we are seeing that, but we aren't seeing like a physical gathering of people storming the House of White yet. And that's the image I was shown. So I'm saying all that to say, since the things that I was thinking would happen by now haven't happened, I wonder if that means that the things I saw happening after that won't happen, right? Like, are we on a different timeline now? So in terms of mid, because one of the things energetically, what I was tuning into was two things. One is that the circus is going to do everything they can to make sure they don't happen. The terms of mid don't happen. If they can't be 100% convinced that they can manipulate the outcome, and I don't think they can be because of the paper, then they're going to try to cancel them or delegitimize them or something. That energy is still there. But the other energy that I was picking up before, which now I'm not feeling is that energy of people physically joining arms and making demands in the city of DC. Can you hear those birdies? I have a lot of birdies on my porch because I feed the birds. Terms of mid, any changes? What's going on with the terms of mid? You know, I'm seeing this wonderful image that kind of reminds me of Hands Across America. I keep seeing this image in different contexts, but it's like all the people have locked hands or locked arms, and they're surrounding all of the places of polls, let's call them. The places where all the ticket counting is happening. And so I'm seeing this wonderful image of people coming together to protect the count or protect the term of mid. And the protection that they're doing is also like philosophical. It's also people wanting to protect the union. They want to protect the union of states. Like there are people, and it's not all people, because when I see this group of people, it's not the whole US, but there's a core group of people who are really invested in protecting the terms of mid, because they know if we don't have the terms of mid, or if they're compromised, that's the end of the union. That's the death knell, the final death knell of the union, is if that happens. And so there's this kind of unity of thought that is symbolized by these people locking arms of, we have to protect. This is the last stand. This is the last line in the sand. This is the last, what's that word? It's an expression I'm forgetting. This is the last, like when you're in a battle, there's like the last defensible position in the battle. If you have to keep retreating, you can only retreat so far before the war is lost, right? Like if you're retreating to the Capitol and you retreat, all the way to the White House, and you lose the White House, right? Then you've lost your seat of government. Then you've lost your government. It's kind of like that, where this is like the last stand. And so there are a lot of people who are really unified in wanting to protect this in order to protect the union. If this is not protected, if we do not have legitimate terms of mid, then all bets are off. Meaning there's going to be different decisions made after that about which states are going to go it on their own, or which states are going to stay in the union, which are going to leave the union. It's kind of be like a grab bag at that point, where it's like, okay, the last bit of trust was violated. If we can't have terms of mid, then we don't have a United States, basically. So there are a lot of people very, very invested in making sure we have them, and that they're legitimate, unlike the contest in November of 24, but a legitimate contest, not manipulated with, not finagled with, no satellites, no space lasers, as St. Clair said. Ashy baby mama said Starboy called them space lasers. And I am seeing some kind of a gathering, some kind of a big announcement, like on a big stage, some kind of a center. It kind of feels like the center of the United States rather than DC. Some type of, I don't know, Minnesota or Illinois, like some central location where there's some type of big organizing or demand or speech made with regard to the terms of mid. And I think I'm going to stop there. So I do feel like what I'm seeing now is a little more hopeful than what I've been seeing for the last few months, because I just kept getting no terms of mid. But I got that something really big was going to happen before the terms of mid. And yeah, so that's what I got. It's already over 2 hours, so I'm gonna stop shortly. So I want to thank everyone for being here and for your questions and for your comments, for your gifts, for your cups of coffee. Thank you to everyone who has bought my book, Ethical Psychic. I also have a poetry book, Ancestor Count, and a philosophy book, Sovereign Wisdom. So thank you to everyone who's been supporting me, and I'd love to hear about your reviews of the book. So please keep those coming. I want to know what you think about it. And I always want to read all these comments, but I can't read them all because I'm talking. But thank you all for being here. We got 500 in the room. Yeah. So I want to order those books. Where you go? So this one you can get everywhere, like bookshop.org if you want to support independent bookstores, or if you can just go into your neighborhood bookstore and ask them to order it. Everyone will order it because it's being distributed by, what do you call it? I'm always forgetting, Random House. So you can get any bookstore to order it. It's very easy. It's in Barnes & Noble. It's in a lot of Barnes & Nobles. And yes, it's also on Amazon. This one is only on Amazon because this is actually my only self-published book, and I just don't have time to distribute it anywhere else. This one is an academic publisher, so Barnes & Noble sells it online, but you can't get it in the bookstores because it's too expensive. They don't sell expensive books. I don't have control of the price. The publisher does. They priced it for colleges, but it is the kind of book that you can read without being an academic. I wrote it to be accessible to everybody. But it's also on Amazon. Barnes. It's in a lot of bookshops around the world. Like I know this in the UK in a lot of bookshops. But you should be able to get it at your local Barnes & Noble, or rather Barnes & Noble online is probably the easiest place to get it. All right. Thank you, everybody. I will see you next time. Stay hopeful, my friends.